And let me congratulate Senator McCain on all of his hard work with the Gang of Eight and his focus on border security, which is an enormously important issue. Mr. President, as the son of an immigrant, my dad came to this country at the age of 17 from Poland. I strongly support the concept of immigration reform, and I applaud the Judiciary Committee and all of those people who have been working hard on this legislation. And there are a lot of provisions within this bill that I think should be strongly supported by the American people. I strongly support a pathway to citizenship for the 11 million undocumented immigrants in this country, bringing undocumented workers out of the shadows and giving them legal status will make it more difficult, among many other things, for employers to undercut the wages and benefits of all workers and will be good for our entire economy. A very, very important step forward. I strongly support the DREAM Act to make sure that the children of illegal immigrants who are brought into this country by their parents years ago are allowed to become citizens. I strongly support providing legal status to foreign workers on family farms. Dairy farmers in Vermont and the owners of apple orchards in my state have told me that without these workers, they would go out of business, and that's obviously true in many, many parts of this country. We also need to make sure, as Senator McCain has just elaborated on, that our borders are more secure and prevent unscrupulous employers from hiring those who have come here illegally. All of those provisions are extremely important, are included in the legislation passed out of the Judiciary Committee last week, and are provisions that I support. And I want to commend my colleague from Vermont, Senator Pat Leahy, for his leadership on those issues. But let me tell you, Mr. President, some of what concerns me very much about the bill as it presently stands. And that is that in a time when nearly 14% of the American people do not have a full-time job, at a time when the middle class continues to disappear, and at a time when tens of millions of Americans are working longer hours for lower wages, it makes no sense to me that the immigration reform bill includes a massive increase in temporary guest worker programs that will allow large corporations to import and bring into this country hundreds of thousands of temporary blue-collar and white-collar guest workers from overseas. That makes no sense to me at all. Mr. President, I am particularly concerned that at a time when college is becoming increasingly unaffordable, and every parent out there with a high school kid is worried about how that family is going to afford college for their kids, at a time when young people desperately need jobs to help pay for the cost of a college education, this bill will make it more difficult for young Americans to find the jobs that they need. Mr. President, today youth unemployment is over 16%, and the teen unemployment rate is over 25%. Unfortunately, many of the jobs that used to be performed by young Americans are now being done by foreign college students through the J-1 summer work travel program and the H-2B guest worker programs. Mr. President, millions of Americans, including myself and I suspect many members of Congress, earned money when they were young at summer jobs or at part-time jobs when they were in college in order to pay for the cost of college. And some of those people, some of Americans today, are working as waiters and waitresses. They're working as lifeguards. They're working at front desk clerks at hotels and resorts. They're working as ski instructors, as cooks, chefs, kitchen personnel, chambermaids, landscapers, and many other similar jobs. and there is nothing that any American has to be embarrassed about at working at any of those jobs or any other job in order to earn some income, to pay the bills, or to make some money in order to afford to go to college. There's nothing that anybody should be ashamed about doing that kind of work. What I worry about very much is the degree to which those jobs will be available for young Americans as a result of the J-1 program and the H-2B program. It pains me very deeply that with minority unemployment extraordinarily high, and I was just in Detroit last week talking to kids who are working so hard, and they're working for $7.25 an hour at McDonald's or other fast food places if they are lucky enough to get that work. And many of them would like to go to college, but are unable to earn the money they need in order to go to college. And it seems to me terribly wrong that we have programs like this J-1 summer work travel program, which brings students from all over the world into the United States to take jobs that young Americans want to do. Mr. President, the J-1 program for foreign college students is supposed to be used as a cultural exchange program, a program to bring young people into this country to learn about our way of life, our customs, and to support international cooperation and understanding. And those are extremely important goals. I believe in that passionately. When I was mayor of the city of Burlington, we started sister city programs with towns around the world in order to develop that type of understanding and cooperation. That is the theory of what the J-1 program is supposed to be, and a wonderful goal it is. Unfortunately, that is not what it is today. Today, the J-1 program has morphed into a low-wage jobs program to allow corporations like Hershey's and McDonald's and many, many others to replace young American workers with cheaper labor from abroad. Mr. President, each and every year, companies from all over this country are hiring more than 100,000 foreign college students in low-wage jobs through the J-1 summer work travel program. Unlike other guest worker programs, the J-1 summer work travel program does not require businesses to recruit American workers for these positions, offer jobs to willing and able Americans first, or to pay prevailing wages. In other words, if there are jobs out there that our young people would like to get in order to put aside a few bucks or help pay for the cost of a college education, the employer is not obliged to reach out to these young Americans. It is one thing for an employer to say, look, I reached out, tried to get some young people to do this job, couldn't find them, I had to go abroad. I can understand that. But that is not the requirement of this J-1 program. Mr. President, let me just read from a website of a foreign labor recruiter touting the benefits of using the J-1 summer work travel program to employers in the United States. This website is called joboffer.org, and this is one, as I understand it, of many. But here's what it says, and I quote from the website, joboffer.org. And this is going to employers who need unskilled workers for the summer. Quote, whether you are running an amusement park, a water park, a concession stand, a golf course, a circus, a zoo, or anything else where people come to enjoy themselves, it's a great idea not to miss the opportunities of the season and hire international seasonal workers to cover your growing staffing needs. International seasonal workers. JobOffer.org has experience in matching candidates from foreign exchange students with amusement firms all over the USA, covering every type of entry-level position you may want to cover with seasonal staffing. The Work and Travel USA program allows exchange students from abroad to work in the U.S. for up to 4 months during the buzz season under a J-1 visa. Joboffer.org is committed to understanding your needs as an amusement business and handling all the seasonal staffing procedures for you at absolutely no cost. Check out the list of positions typically filled with international exchange students. End of quote. Now, what this website is doing is telling employers, in this case, they're just focusing on amusement parks. But obviously, it goes much beyond that into all kinds of resorts, many, many other areas. But what they are simply saying is that we need unskilled labor. Now, one would think that historically, one knows that historically in this country, that is what young people did. When you're in high school, when you're in college, you're trying to make a few bucks, you go out and you get a summer job, and maybe you can earn a couple of $1,000. And maybe it starts you on a career, or maybe it's money to put aside to go to college. I did it. Many members of the Senate do it, and millions of young people in this country want to do it. And now what these companies are saying is, you don't need to hire kids in your community anymore. You don't have to reach out to minority kids who desperately need a job. The kids in Vermont who want to put away a few bucks to go to college, you don't have to do that anymore. We will help you bring young people from all over the world to do these jobs. You know, one of the arguments we hear, Mr. President, on the floor is that we need highly skilled workers because high-tech companies just can't attract the scientists and the engineers and the physicists and the mathematicians they need. And when we bring them in, these guys are going to help create jobs in America. Maybe. That's a whole other issue for discussion. But nobody can tell me that we need to bring young people from all over the world to work at entry-level jobs because there are not young Americans who want to do that job when the unemployment rate for young people in this country is extraordinarily high. Nobody with a straight face can make that claim. And here are some of the jobs being advertised on this very same website, and there are many websites like it. This one focuses on jobs within the amusement industry: ride operators, attendants, game operators, food service, flipping hamburgers, lifeguards. I guess we have no young people in America who are capable of being lifeguards. Nobody in America can swim and get a job as a lifeguard. I guess we need to bring people from all over the world to be lifeguards. Guest relations, admissions, security, games and attractions, merchandise, grounds quality, season pass processor, entertainment, wardrobe, warehouse, safari gatekeepers and wardens, parking lot attendants. Yeah, I guess nobody in America could be a parking lot attendant. Landscape, cash control. And here's the interesting point. The website, after mentioning all of these jobs specific to the amusement industry, they ask the following questions. What happens, interesting question, what happens when you use seasonal employment for your theme or amusement park? And here is the answer this foreign labor recruiter gives on their website. You cover your seasonal staffing needs with young, highly motivated, English-speaking international staff from 18 to 28 years old and cut costs by paying fewer taxes. Got that? You can bring in international workers, students from abroad, and one of the advantages that you have is you pay lower taxes on that foreign worker than you do for an American worker. In fact, Mr. President, under the J-1 summer work travel program, employers do not have to pay Medicare, Social Security, and unemployment taxes, which amounts to a payroll savings of about $8.45 per employee. What a bargain. So we are enticing, we're giving an incentive to a company to bring foreign workers into this country and saving them money by hiring foreign workers at the expense of young Americans who certainly could do those jobs. Under the J-1 program, employers do not have to pay Social Security and Medicare payroll taxes. They don't have to pay unemployment taxes. They don't have to offer jobs to Americans first. They don't have to pay wages that are comparable to what American workers make. What employer in America would want to hire a young American as a lifeguard or a ski instructor or a waiter or a waitress or any other low-skill job when they could hire a foreign college student instead at a significant reduction in cost? Mr. President, I understand that the immigration reform bill that we are debating reforms this program by requiring foreign labor recruiters to pay a $500 fee for every foreign college student they bring into this country. Right now, foreign college students bear all of these costs. But in my opinion, Mr. President, that is not good enough. This program is a real disservice to the young people in this country. I believe, again, in cultural exchanges. I would put a lot more money into cultural exchanges so that our young people could go abroad, so that young people from all over the world could attend our high schools. That would be a great thing. But that is not what this J-1 program is. It is a program which is displacing young American workers at a time of double-digit unemployment among youth, and it is putting downward pressure on wages at a time when the American people are in many cases working longer hours for lower wages. In my opinion, this particular program should be abolished. Cultural program, yes, but bringing in young people to take jobs from young Americans, no. But, Mr. President, at the very least, if we're not going to abolish this program, we need to make sure that we have a comparable summer and year-round jobs program for our young people in order to help them pay for college and to move up the economic ladder. At the very least, that is what should be in this bill. That is why I will be filing an amendment today to the immigration reform bill to create a youth jobs program. My amendment would provide states with $1.5 billion in immediate funding to support a 2-year summer and year-round jobs program for low-income youth and economically disadvantaged young adults. This amendment is modeled on the summer and year-round program, youth jobs program included in President Obama's American Jobs Act. This amendment would build on the successes from the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, which provided $1.2 billion in funding for the WIA Youth Jobs Program. This program created over 374,000 summer job opportunities during 2009 and 2010 to young Americans who desperately needed those jobs. And this amendment, in fact, would create even more jobs. Mr. President, let me be very clear. The same corporations and businesses that support a massive expansion in guest worker programs are opposed to raising the minimum wage. They have long supported the outsourcing of American jobs. They have reduced the wages and benefits of American workers at a time when corporate profits are at an all-time high. In too many cases, the H-2B program for lower-skilled guest workers and the H-1B program for high-skilled guest workers are being used by employers to drive down the wages and benefits of American workers and to place American workers with cheap labor from abroad. The immigration reform bill that passed the Senate Judiciary Committee could increase the number of low-skilled guest workers by as much as 800% over the next 5 years and could more than triple the number of temporary white-collar guest workers coming into this country. And that is the basic issue, and that is my basic concern. At a time when unemployment is so high, does it really make a whole lot of sense to be bringing in hundreds of thousands of workers from all over the world into this country to fill jobs that American workers desperately need? Mr. President, the high-tech industry tells us that they need the H-1B program so that they can hire the best and the brightest science, technology, engineering, and math workers in the world, and that there just aren't enough qualified American workers in these fields. In some cases, let me be very honest, I think that that is true. I think there are some companies in some parts of the country that are unable to attract American workers to do the jobs that are needed, and I believe that in those instances, corporations should have the right to bring in foreign workers so that the corporation can do the business that it's supposed to be doing. But having said that, let me also tell you some facts. In 2010, 54% of the H-1B guest workers were employed in entry-level jobs and performed, and I quote, routine tasks requiring limited judgment, end of quote, according to the Government Accountability Office. Routine tasks. So when a lot of my friends here talk about high-tech workers, they are talking about scientists, they're talking about all these guys who are going to create jobs, but that is not necessarily the case. Only 6% of H-1B visas were given to workers with highly specialized skills in 2010, according to the GAO. More than 80% of H-1B guest workers are paid wages that are less than American workers in comparable positions, according to the Economic Policy Institute. Over 9 million Americans have degrees in a STEM-related field, but only about 3 million have a job in one. Last year, the top 10 employers of H-1B guest workers were all offshore outsourcing companies. These firms are responsible for shipping large numbers of American information technology jobs to India and other countries. Half of all recent college graduates majoring in computer and information science in the United States did not receive jobs in the information technology sector. So, Mr. President, it seems to me that this is an issue we have got to deal with. And the second amendment that I will be filing today is with Senators Grassley and Harkin, and that amendment would prohibit companies that have announced mass layoffs over the past year from hiring guest workers unless these companies can prove that their overall employment will not be reduced as a result of these mass layoffs. In other words, what we are seeing is a very clear trend. Large corporations are throwing American workers out on the street, and they're bringing in foreign workers to do those very same jobs. And many of these very same companies have moved parts of their corporate world away from the United States into third world countries. So this continues the attack on American workers, and we must stop it. Let me just give you a few examples as I conclude my remarks. In 2012, Hewlett-Packard, one of the large American corporations, announced that it was laying off 30,000 workers at the same time that it hired more than 660 H-1B guest workers. In 2012, Cisco laid off 1,300 employees at the same time that it hired more than 330 H-1B guest workers. In 2012, Yahoo hired more than 135 H-1B guest workers at the same time that it announced that it was laying off over 2,000 workers. Research in Motion hired 24 H-1B guest workers at the same time that it laid off over 5,000 people. So, Mr. President, I think it makes no sense at all that corporations that are laying off American workers are now reaching into the H-1B program to bring in foreign workers. So let me simply conclude by saying this. There is much in this legislation that I support and that I believe the American people support. But problems remain. Problems remain. And the main problem to me is this guest worker concept, which is being widely abused by employers throughout this country. At the very least, I want to see a summer jobs program for our kids who are now losing jobs because of the J-1 program, but we need to do even more than that. So, Mr. President, I look forward to working with my colleagues who have worked so hard on this bill to make it a bill that all Americans and all working people can be supportive of. And with that, Mr. President, I would yield the floor.